When you spend 2 decades wearing a motorcycle club patch, serving in leadership, and half a century raised in the life, among some of the largest organizations on record, there are several life lessons to be learned. This is one of those lessons. It comes to mind a lesson learned that is relevant to the club life, as well as life in general, is that you should always trust your instincts. Because in the club life, just as I have found in regular life, people are motivated by their own selfish reasons to lie to you, or at the very least may not agree with your insight, and for whatever reason try to tell you that you're wrong, or try to get you to agree with their point of view. It seems that in the club life, even clubs that you get along with aren't always forthcoming. Sometimes it's intentional, but other times it's just simply lack of knowledge. But if you're a leader in the club life, you've probably developed relationships with people in and outside of the club life, some of which you know have insight, and some are just full of shit. I once told a chapter president he was way too gullible. That would be the computer cunt, who I think I'll just start calling Dot Cunt, because most people know who I'm talking about. They know my circle. But anyway, it became apparent that a 1% club, who we had a friendship with in our county, one that you would well recognize, had lied to us about knowing a club that we had seen in our county. But I told dumb chapter boss in our club, it's every club's job to lie to you. It's your job to figure out when it's important. But anyway, as I had mentioned on previous episodes, there was one large 1% club that we're constantly at odds with, although some of them were very close friends of mine. I'm now fully convinced it's just the nature of that club that we were at odds. I mean, I've fought beside some of their members. I have defended them, and they have defended me. Other times, some of their members tried to have me removed from the planet. So a different club that we were truly friends with was having their annual party coming up in a week or so at that time. And it was one of the times that we were at odds with the other big club. The big club was invited to the same party, but rarely ever showed up in any kind of numbers. Then I received a phone call from somebody who had insight, who wasn't full of shit, and had no incentive to lie to me. He said that he had spoken to a few members of a support clubs of the big club who were friends of his. He said that they were bitching about being mandated to attend the upcoming party. I guess he went on to say how all of the chapters within a certain radius, about 65 men, were mandated to attend this party. I said, really? Well, I appreciate the heads up. You see, I knew if that particular support club was mandated, that there were at least 4 other support clubs in the region that would all likely be mandated to attend as well. So about 2 days later, I get a call from the chapter president of the club that's hosting the party. I said, hey man, what's up? He said, hey, somebody had mentioned that you're not bringing your old ladies with you to our party. I was just wondering if that was true, because generally that's seen as a warning that there might be trouble. Now keep in mind, they're a good friend of ours, but still, club business is club business. So I said, well, first of all, if it was one of my guys talking out their ass about our business, I'd love to hear who. I said, secondly, what you likely don't know is that our old ladies haven't ridden with us for almost a year due to some ongoing conflicts. He said, yes, I know, but you don't have any conflict with us, do you? I said, not that I know of, but one of your invited clubs has a problem with us. He said, yeah, but they don't show up in big numbers. I said, you might want to get some extra hot dogs this year because they're showing up with big numbers. And I told him what I had been told, but not from whom. And his response was, because the support clubs are coming doesn't mean that club is coming to start trouble. So I asked him, how many members in support clubs showed up last year at this party? And he replied, I don't really remember. I said, 8. 2 members of the big club, 4 members of one support club, and 2 members of one other. Now if they've already mandated around 65 men, plus you and I both know the other 4 clubs that are in support, plus the members from the chapters that will come of the big club, you're looking about 130 men. He got kind of quiet and said, Tabasco, I really don't think they would try anything. I said, it's not your job to think for my club. It's my job to think for my club. And I said, well, we already have a ride planned that day that's going to take us about half the day anyways, but if we get time on our way back, I'll have somebody call ahead so we don't come rolling into an ambush. You see, their clubhouse is fairly isolated, and there is a heavily wooded road going into their place. It's a perfect place to ambush. So long story short, we didn't make a call to them that day. We didn't have to, because one of their other invited clubs that was unrelated to the situation but knew about our beef had reached out to one of my guys while we were out on that run. He just wanted to let our guys know that between the members of the big club and their support clubs, there were roughly 118 members there, and they didn't have their old ladies either. Now, our total membership in the state was about 45 members on that ride, and I was dead set on showing up at that party. But I got overruled by our national boss because somebody had tipped him off, and I got a phone call before we got there and was told to stand down, which is a big part of the reason that I hung my packs and retired. But that's for a different podcast someday. So I think the lessons learned are these. If you trust in your knowledge, then don't let anyone else make you doubt your decisions. And if somebody tells you something who has no incentive to lie and seems genuine in their effort, it doesn't hurt to consider what they've told you as fact. But what the hell do I know? I'm just Tabasco the biker. Keep it real.
Well, they call us the Sinister Six, 'cause we'll hit you like a ton of bricks.